working. Live streaming isn't available right now. That sounds fun. Well, I think we're live on Periscope and Facebook, maybe YouTube. It's tough to tell these days. They said that the restream it says you might have connectivity issues. They may be intermittent. So let's ask the chat. Live? See what the chat says. Anyway, we'll just get started for the people on Facebook and Twitter. Today is Tuesday. We're wishing it was Thursday. Today is Tuesday, March 24th, 2020. My name is Thomas Hunt. This is the Thomas Hunt Show. That makes sense. We're joined by Mir. Hi, Mir.
Hi.
How's
Directly
it going?
from Italy.
Live from Italy. Checking out the price of Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is up just about 1% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 6,564, a high of 6,835, and a low of 6,266. That's $1 for 15,219 Satoshis. Checking out the Dow Jones Industrial Average, it's open and it's up. The Dow Jones is up 8.63% in the last 4 or 5 hours to a last of 20,189, a previous close of 18,591, likely rising on the news that Congress is hoping to get a plan through today with some kind of stimulus. So be sure to like this video, or is it like thing? There it is. Like this video. And as promised, we have the button now.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Anytime we want.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
There we go. So that'll be fun. All right. So we're joined by Mir, who's live all the way from Italy. How are things in Italy? How has the lockdown been? How long have you been on lockdown now?
Personally, since I came back from Confiscatable, so from 29th of February. So, but that was a self-quarantine, stay for 10 days, like that. And then the Italian government imposed us a whole country quarantine. So it's been around almost a month at this point.
Almost a month. So how are your food supplies holding up? Do you still have pasta, or are you well into the canned foods now?
Of course, I'm Italian. I always have pasta. But the point is that nobody would expect something like that. The lockdown in Italy is very extreme. We cannot, especially in my area, I'm in Lombardy, I'm in Milan, which is the most hit area. Right now the conditions are just like you cannot move from home, basically, only to go to shop for some groceries, or if you have a dog you can go around 50 meters, and basically, or you have an emergency, just like a medical condition, a medical situation. Except for those, we have to stay home.
Now, I know you had a problem with that recently. You had to go get medicine for your family, and that your brother couldn't help, even though he was right in a nearby town. What happened there?
The point is that every day there are stricter measures. The last one is just like you cannot move from your city, town. But the problem is that sometimes your relatives are in very close towns, but different. For example, my brother is in another town. He has got all the masks for my parents. My parents are in their 80s. And my mom is at home, and my father too, but sometimes my father had to go out to take the drugs for my mom. So he needs the mask, but right now my brother cannot enter into Milan anymore, and I don't have mask. So this is incredible. This is how stupid those rules are. They are trying to protect us, but what they are doing is they're acting against us. They told me, well, probably this could be an exception, but since right now, if you break the rules, it's criminal law. Nobody really wants to try that thing. It's criminal law. It means it will start a process, and you can end up to 3 months of jail. Of course, it won't happen, but that's a lot.
Now, the likely reason for the more extreme conditions are that people aren't following the quarantine. Are people staying home? Are they still going to bars and restaurants? Or
yes. The point is that where I live in Milan, nobody is moving. Nobody. And now we cannot even go outside alone to do some sports, because at the beginning they were like, oh, it's all the runners' fault. But now there are no runners around, nothing, no cars, nobody around. I cannot imagine what they can do more than this. People are really respecting the lockdown measure. No, the only things that are open now are grocery stores, pharmacies, and that's it. And no fuel anymore from tomorrow. So nothing is happening. We are stuck at home.
Now, we've also been told that you're taking the ultimate sacrifice. You're also stuck at home with Giacomo.
Yeah, absolutely. So the funny thing is that we live in two different countries, and Giacomo normally lives to work in the Italian part of Switzerland, but he decided to come back with me and the baby and do the quarantine together, because I mean, for our daughter is a magical time. We are all together, and she's making us smile all the time. And I'm very happy that we are at least enjoying some family time.
I'm glad you're having that. From the outside, it looked like he might have been able to escape. He was in Las Vegas. He's traveling around. I was like, if he stays out of the quarantine, I'm gonna be like, oh, shame on him. Go to that quarantine. So
no, he really decided to enter in the, we call it in Italy, red zone. It was a very brave move. Yeah, really. He could have stayed outside in Switzerland.
See, I knew he had the option, so no, that's really good that he went home to the family. So I'm glad
but we decided to stay here also because we wanted to stay close to our families. As I told before, my parents are quite old, so I prefer to stay here and just I don't know. Also, you know, when there is a pandemic, it spread everywhere in all Europe and in Switzerland too. I mean, we are the most hit part, and our healthcare is starting to have problems. So probably it's better to go to another place. But a pandemic doesn't look so much at the border, doesn't care so much if you are in Italy or in Switzerland or whatever.
Yeah, I spent just a little bit of time in Italy, and they had trouble in Rome picking up the trash. So I would worry.
Well,
I would worry that problem would extend to the rest of the government, and I would be like, "Oh no, what if if you can't pick up the trash? I mean, you're gonna have all kinds of other problems." So.
That's a very difficult thing to understand. But northern Italy is very different from the rest of Italy. When you think of Rome or Naples, you think of the typical Italians, and they are funny, they really know how to cook food, and a lot of gesture, more than me. In the north, we are different. It's just an historical reason, and healthcare in our region, Lombardy, is supposed to be one of the best in all Europe, and Lombardy is one of the wealthiest area all over the Europe. So we have no problem with trash. we are kind of rich. So I asked myself so many questions about why we are so hit, what is happening here that it's different from other part of Italy and other part of Europe and other part of the world. So I gained more knowledge over these days. So now I'm starting to connect the dots, and there are plenty of reasons. And I still think that this area will be one of the most hit in the end. So yeah, situation is very difficult. It will be very difficult to in the future. So,
and there's a question in the chat. In the chat, it says, "Do you have socialized or government-run medicine in Italy?"
Yes, we have. The point is that yes, we have a public healthcare system. It's just like we don't pay, but we pay so much for that in our taxes. And the point is that every area, every region, for example, Lombardy, has some kind of sort of freedom to move around those rules. And also Italy is very interesting because we have a mixture between a private semi-private and public hospitals. So it's a kind of good system, and 80% of all hospitals of Italy are in the northern part. So it's incredible if you think like that. We are wealthy, we are healthy in theory, and all of the hospitals are here, and this is what is happening right now. So there should be other reason why we are in this situation.
It's a very strong virus. It spreads really well.
Well,
we're trying to
I
work
think
with
so.
it. So.
They didn't expect something so contagious, probably, especially at the beginning. They didn't prepare. And also, it's impossible not to blame the news and information they told us. They told us not to wear a mask. They told us to live freely because it was just a flu, nothing else. Please do whatever you want. There were specifically campaign to not stop our economy, to not stop our way of life. And Italian way of life, of course, is very social and is very active. So the most of the contagion, the spread happened during those weeks after the first clusters being discovered. So I think many people in the authorities have a responsibility in this, because I was lucky enough to understand what was going on and to self-quarantine myself, especially my parents, but many believed what they've been told. And they are paying the consequences with Lombardy is a very interconnected area, and the population is very old. So of course we are going to see many deaths, because it's plenty of old people, and those old people are very social and active. I literally have to ask my parents to stay home, and they were just like, what? We have our life, we go out, we have friends, we have our hobbies. What are you asking for? It's too much. And but thank God that they listened to me, and they didn't go around during the worst weeks, because the number we are watching nowadays are still the spread happening during the first day of March and in the end of February. So people are expecting to see something positive about Italian lockdown, still quite early, in my opinion. Numbers are going down a little bit. This is positive, but we are going to see something probably at the beginning of April.
And then, what do you think of the reports today that President Trump is thinking about lifting the social restrictions in the United States and ending this thing before it even starts?
Well, I don't know U.S. So much as I know, of course, Italy and Lombardy, but I would say that probably the point is we were kind of the first, so we didn't know what we were doing. But right now there is more knowledge, and more knowledge will be around soon from our experiments. We are a sort of guinea pigs, and what we can understand from this experience, that a lockdown work, but has been done, should be done early and quite strict work. Something in the middle, it's just like having both of the flows of a freedom model and a complete China-like model. I don't know. We are experimenting, and the worst thing is we are the guinea pigs in Italy, but also in the USA. What I'm expecting for the next month all over the world will be just like continue experimenting, and probably to open up those lockdowns, and then close the lockdown, open it again, and trying to figure out the best strategies. So it won't be a very easy time.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mira, for joining us. And maybe you can check in again with us in a week or two. We'll see how this thing's still going. And hopefully Bitcoin will still be there, and everything else will still be fine. So This is just a an interruption from our normal Bitcoin programming, right? So.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, during the last week also, Bitcoin was so disappointing. I was about like, I really need some good news. I don't have any rights anymore. I can go out. My life is a nightmare. And even Bitcoin, but the price of today and all the others around are showing me and the word that Bitcoin is here to stay. I'm very positive about Bitcoin.
Very good. See, we still have something good and something bright and positive to look forward to.
Absolutely,
So.
absolutely. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. And we're going to keep going here on the Thomas Hunt Show with more news. That's right. We're checking out the coronavirus on Worldometer. About to do the big refresh for today. Here's a reset there. And let's see. Maybe I'll just hide Zoom for right now. Oh, there it is. It's me. And it refreshed 400,455 cases worldwide of the coronavirus, 17,451 deaths. So we have broken through 400,000 on our way, likely to 500,000. It's doubling, at least worldwide. Previously, the doubling was around every 7 days. So if we continue this trend next Tuesday, we may see 800,000 worldwide. Stay the fuck home. The best thing you can do to fight the coronavirus is stay home. Also, another good thing, wear a mask. Wear an effing mask. I don't know. We're saying F a lot here. It kind of loses its power. But trying to break through to you that even if you don't have a nice N95 or N99 mask, a surgical mask is still pretty good, or a homemade surgical mask. There are lots of instructions on this webpage and other web pages like it where you can learn how to make surgical masks or something that's close to that. There was a study basically having a mask over your mouth, even if it's a wrapped t-shirt or a scarf, keeps more microbes out of your mouth than not having a mask. So it's not perfect. It's not 100%. Let's not go crazy, but let's also not go out there without nothing. If you're going to be meeting with people, if you're going to be close to people, if you're going to be in the city, if you're going to be on the subway, wear a mask. Like this show, the like button. Where is it? I have so many fun buttons to fix here. Let's see if I can fix that like button. Tuesday morning call-in show. There's something that looks close to it. Let's see. 8 likes, and then I'll self-like. 9 likes. Oh, there's 10. That's pretty good. So thanks to everybody for liking this show. We've been getting about 50 likes a show, and we've been getting about 500 viewers or so. So that's pretty cool. And we're just hanging out, talking about the news. Had a great little interview with Mir there. Like I said, chink the coffee cup. Check this out. That's right. It's the white paper on a coffee cup, or the first block, or whatever it is. It's the header of the Bitcoin blockchain on a mug. Got that at CoinFest or BitBrum. My friend Joe and my friend Adam run those conferences in the UK. Here we are, United States, getting ready. We don't have drum roll, we have drum hit. But here we go, refresh. 48,963, very close to 50,000 infected, 588 deaths. Coronavirus continuing to rampage. This is the enemy.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
I might make that shorter. I might make it just say infinite cash. There's infinite cash.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
And Bitcoin price gains 7% in 24 hours as Wall Street bets on $2 trillion bailout. Ooh. See, it's like the Bitcoin markets were an early market where you could invest in this bailout happiness before we had bailout happiness. So that's why the Dow's up 8%. They believe they're going to be bailed out. It was great, though, on Kramer this morning. I watched just a little bit of CNBC with the morning bell. I had Nancy Pelosi on there, and Nancy Pelosi was using the word bailout. And Kramer was like, don't use that word bailout. It was a slur or something. The companies are very sensitive. They don't want to be called bailout. Check it out. Another camera over there. Whoa. Another camera over there. What? Okay. Cryptocurrency value rises over 14 billion in 24 hours as Bitcoin rallies 10%. Nice. That's pretty cool. How about that one? Oh, continue without supporting. Bitcoin was up over 10% in 24 hours, previously trading at 6,569. Other digital coins, including Ethereum and RIP, were also higher. The market capitalization, or entire value of the cryptocurrency market, rose to reach $182.62 billion. Very cool. And Novogratz is using Bitcoin Velociraptor or Volacryptor. I don't know. Of all the times to not have Cryptoraptor here. Oh, we reached our article limit. We can't read Bloomberg anymore. Anyway, he's using this drop as a chance to buy. So you really need to read the whole article if you need to understand that. Be in crypto, Bitcoin's 2015 fractal is not going exactly as planned. Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good. Let's see what they've got. Picture, bull trend, blah, 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 blah. Oh, that was it. Okay, so the fractal is not working. Someone please fix the fractal. Someone in the chat, can you take care of the fractal? Analyst reveals why Bitcoin will rise among QE. Well, because they're printing money, right?
There's an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
There's an infinite amount of cash, the Federal Reserve. Whoa, Bitcoin SV was taken over by a mystery troll miner. An unknown mining pool has assumed majority hash power on the Bitcoin SV network. Oh, that's not good. Let's see what's going on there. Oh, that's a great graphic. It's like a big troll hands typing on a keyboard. That's pretty cool. An unknown mining pool raises questions to the security of the so-called real Bitcoin. This is sad for BSV being trolled hard, as it says here, on-chain. So this is on-chain trolling. It's a new kind of trolling. Bummer for the SV crew, whoever they are. Crypto whales move $148 million in Bitcoin, along with 57,000 ETH and 46 million Ripple on a wild day. We don't know if they're whales. They're probably exchanges. Everyone gets excited when they can see these large amounts of Bitcoin move, but then they just realize it's probably an exchange moving from one pocket to the other pocket. It's very unlikely that anyone's moving that much money, that much, So let's see what else is going on. I think we're going to go into politics. Let's check out the chat. Hello to everybody in the chat. This is a great time to ask questions or to call in. You could call in now at 1-518-600-1949 or on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. I also invited a bunch of people on Twitter, but Mir was the only one who showed up. So pretty cool having that Mir interview, someone from Italy telling you what the conditions are like live inside of Italy, inside of the major quarantine, the major stay-at-home order. Uvos was right. We hit 400,000 infected during the show. When I refreshed, it was there. Jennifer checked out Netflix but didn't find Tiger Kings. I'll have to keep looking for that one. I don't know what it is. I'll bet it's going to be weird, though. She says she watched Idiocracy and Men Who Stare at Goats. Those are some good ones. I like Idiocracy. It's a really good one. Men Who Stare at Goats, I think I've only seen once or twice. But it's pretty neat, the CIA having some kind of psychics who can control goats and things like that. Shout out to Squires. He's catching the live show for the first time since 2017. Probably gets to work from home, gets to watch whatever he wants on his screen today. Of course, just a little note for everyone working at home, as they've been saying on the old privacy Twitter sites that I'm on and such. Zoom keeps track of other windows that you're running. So does Slack. So I don't know. Don't watch porn in the middle of your work meeting, I guess. I don't know. Don't have a headline of your browser like industrial espionage that I am performing during my Zoom meeting. I don't know, but just something to keep in mind. I don't think it's a problem with the programs. Like, for example, Open Broadcaster knows all the programs I'm running because I could select the windows by name. So it knows. No big deal. Cab says we're live on YouTube. Thanks for letting us know. We had some questionable connection issues. We use this thing now called Restream.io, and it's pretty cool. It lets us be on Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube at the same time. Pretty cool. But they have this big box now that says connection error, so you don't know if it's going to work. So we just kind of push the button and hope it works. So we worked out today. Holla at Dan in the chat. He's joining us. Let's see. BTC Church, who is prepared for the coming of the Lord? He is angry. Where will they hide their faces? That's pretty interesting stuff. Squires might need a tinfoil hat after that. They want to know, because we talked to Mir. Codeman says the Reagan line. Everybody's into that. I'm from the government, here to help you. But I don't know. A lot of people in Hurricane Katrina and lots of other crises are very happy to see government representatives, usually military or National Guard or even just volunteers or something. Cheers to Joint Specialist. His BTC is back in the green. And Vengeance doing all right too. Shout out. Welcome in the chat. And Zazaza still hanging in there. Everyone's getting their karma during the coronavirus. Ooh, Ricky D opening up a box of worms there. Not going to touch that one right now, but we do have the news recap coming up, which is usually pretty brutal. Gets a little political. USD hard fork incoming, says Hastings. It is funny. I do agree with that tweet the other day. And it's not just a tweet, it's like an idea, but this is a monumental comparison that's about to come up. They're going to print lots of money, which again, I'm kind of in agreement is when I don't know what else you can do. You have to save the economy. They're going to print lots of money. At the same time, Bitcoin is going to go down in production by half. So it really is two competing and different ideologies fighting against each other. Like, you get to see the live comparison. Like, what are you a fan of? What's important to you? And you're going to get to make your choice. You're going to get to see. Certainly you have the choice whether you want to hold Bitcoin, if you want to hold fiat, or a little bit of both, or whatever. You're going to have all kinds of options like that soon. Dun, 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 dun. Making the Twitter window a little bigger. Thinking about that for the news. I like Open Broadcaster. You can do a lot of on-the-fly stuff. It's fun. I had another, let's see. It came up as this now. I had a little browser for Tallycoin, trying to make a little donation button there, but it fritzed out. So I'll have to keep working with that. But let's see what else is going in the chat. Martin says, what's going on with the Chinese miners? I don't know. This might be the interruption in the Bitcoin hash rate. I haven't looked at the numbers myself, but I heard it went down 40% the other day. Not sure if it's recovered. Could be energy problems or needing a vacation or contracts ending. And they're like, well, the contract's up. We mined what we're going to mine. We're out of here. So I don't know. But you just got to keep an eye on that. Hopefully the hash rate keeps going up. That's one of the good indicators for Bitcoin, indicators of interest that people are still mining it. They still have value in it. We're up to 25 likes. Thanks so much for hitting that like button. Be sure to like this and other YouTube videos. Everybody says it. Let's save them the time. Subscribe, hit the bell, like the video. Just save everybody the time. That's how YouTube can tell if something is a good video. That's how they recommend it to other people. Big wheels keep on turning. Proud Mary keeps on burning. You're going to get me sing more. Uh-oh. And good morning to AR in the chat. Hello to Dan. And don't worry about the smoke coming from Joint. Nothing's wrong with his computer.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
All right, getting our infinite cash on. We're going to check out yesterday's news. Be prepared. It may be brutal. Into the unknown. No limit on Fed money injections. Woo! No limit. Oh, this guy was really good. Watch this over and over again. This was brilliantly and simply put. Again, YouTube, for your records, this is fair use. This is news programming, and we are commentating on this as well as sharing some pretty darn valuable information. So check this out. This is a video from Twitter explaining how viral things work.
Normal flu, if I get that, I'm going to infect, on average, about 1.3, 1.4 people, okay, if there was such a division.
Yeah.
And if those 1.3, 1.4 people gave it to the next lot, that's the second time it gets passed on. By the time that's happened 10 times, I've been responsible for about 14 cases of flu. This coronavirus is very, very infectious, so every person passes it to 3. Now, that doesn't sound like much of a difference, but if each of those 3 passes it to 3, and that happens at 10 layers, I have been responsible for infecting 59,000 people. Now,
I actually wasn't on top of that maths when you were doing that. Okay, that did come as a shock, yeah.
Right. Now, most people are going to feel a bit pokey, or not very pokey, and be just fine, but they will have spread it around. And a few will get sick at about day 10 of their illness. So they will need to come to a hospital. And when they're in a hospital, they will consume resources and time, and people will look after them quite rightly. And they will be monitored to see if they become really, really sick. Those people then come to an intensive care unit, and that's where, if you're critically ill, your life gets saved or not. And this is the issue. If we've got a limited resource, which we have, a limited number of ventilators, a limited number of doctors, a limited number of nurses, which is fine, because we can't run ourselves with a huge excess capacity all the time. If we overwhelm that, we can't provide that service of caring for these people properly.
This isn't the end of the world, is it?
No, we've got to remember that this is, I'm not going to play it down. It's going to be ugly, it's going to be horrible for a large number of people, but it will be a small number of people who get properly sick, and a smaller percentage of those, again, that need to come to an intensive care unit, and we can save the lives of a large number of those people too. But please just remember that the best chance we can give for the people who do fall ill is if we've got enough beds and enough staff and enough kit to be able to be there for you. And if you are irresponsible enough to think that you don't mind if you get the flu, remember, it's not about you. It's about everybody else.
Great little video there from Channel 4 in the UK, used under fair use. Shout out to Vention in the chat. Thanks for the $5 donation. He also says some of the currencies that crashed, like Australia, probably makes the Bitcoin crash look less severe to them. Bitcoin protected them. And that's one of the things people were hoping for with this Bitcoin safe haven idea. It didn't work with the 50% crash, but it started to work afterwards when people sought a safe haven from the stock market. As the video said, the virality of the coronavirus is not like 1.3, it's more like 3.0. And if it's 3.0, it spreads not to maybe 10 to 12 people, but it could spread from you to 59,000 people. So it's one of those big viral problems that we don't understand and we don't usually think about. But that's why you need to stay home. Norma's here. Nobody watched the Tiger Dudes. Jennifer looked for it on YouTube. She said she couldn't find it. It wasn't there. So might be a special video for Thailand or South Korea, something like that. I don't know. Here we go. We're going to get into the press conference. As Trisha here says, no Fauci, and clearly someone has gotten to Trump, and he's changing course on the virus and shutting down, and changing course on the virus and changing course on shutting down the country. Make no mistake, if we allow businesses to open before this virus goes away, people are going to die in large numbers, and it will be on him. So that pretty much sums up the press conference. Dr. Fauci was not there. President Trump does seem to be leading without medical advice or knowledge towards reopening the country as soon as possible. He seems very upset that the economy has gone down. And let's see what's going on. They say the reason there's no Dr. Fauci on stage is that he was critical of Trump, saying that I couldn't just stand behind him and I couldn't tell him to stop saying things, and that Dr. Fauci's been disagreeing with Trump. So if you disagree with the leader, you're removed from the stage. It's very strange. The Attorney General Barr was there. I'm not sure that he spoke at all. I'm not sure why he was there, but he stood behind Trump, and they kind of chuckled a couple times. It was pretty bad. He's saying weariness with social distancing. He's disagreeing with the doctors. Trump wants this over in a week. Fauci says it's more like 3 months. No more Fauci. So that seems pretty standard. No one knows why Barr is there. Trump, chief scientist Trump said, "I'm not looking at months, let me tell you." Dr. Brick said that she had a low-grade fever, and Trump react like he's running out of the room. Quoting Scott Dworkin here, he says, "Trump, Barr, and Pence start laughing because they're clowns. Over 100 Americans died today from coronavirus. 545 Americans dead so far. They need to act like it." And that's, I took back that I called him a clown, but now this guy's calling him a clown. And I'm pretty sure we're going to see the video of this as I keep scrolling up. He really did. It was, when you invite someone that's not mature enough for a meeting to a meeting, and they're going to clown in the middle of it. They're going to make a joke out of it. It's going to be embarrassing. And, you're going to pass over it. It's just a meeting. It's fine. But it's like that at a national meeting about a very important virus that's killing people. So you'll see it. Trump ducks out of there like he's in high school class, like it's like goofing around, like the towel whipping kind of things. It was a locker room talk. So it's fine. As this guy says here, Michael Gillette says, Trump is lying to American citizens about the very real threat of mass death, because telling the truth might hurt his chance at re-election. These are the words of a psychopath. Well, that's a little far, but Trump is spewing bullshit. Sorry for the bad language. Says Joe Lockhart, on invoking the flu and car deaths. We have a vaccine and therapeutics for the flu. We've reduced car deaths by about 90% in a generation through seatbelts and engineering. We have no defense for COVID-19. He doesn't get it. So it's unfortunate. Let's see. So yeah, he's going to open up the country. He's going to be watching certain areas. Here's a backwards chart. This is what car fatalities look like since the 1920s. They've actually gone down. We're doing a great job stopping car fatalities. So that's the opposite. Weeks or month. I'm not looking at months. I'll tell you right now, we're going to open up the country. And here's Dr. Blix explaining she has a fever. And here's, high schooler Trump. We don't even need to play this. Oh, gotta go. Oh, that's so funny. Oh, look at Barr. Barr is like chuckling and smiling. He's like, and Pence too. It's like a whole joke. Like, I mean, it's really,
It's Saturday night,
so we'll
and
just go back. So
had a little low-grade fever. So, actually, probably a GI
that's
thing.
so funny.
But, I'm meticulous.
Oh, man. That's like, I look at that and I'm just like, man, that's like hilarious. I'm just like, man, 49,000 infected, 616 dead. I'm like, man, I hope there's more hijinks like this today. Like, in these kind of hijinks. Like,
Hey, had a little low-grade fever.
oh.
So, actually, probably a GI thing.
Oh.
But, I'm meticulous. I'm a physician. I looked it up. I ended up piggy bank. I'm from Walter
I know.
Reed,
I mean, I
so-
don't. And again, that's a direct clip that hasn't been edited at all. I don't know. Sorry, guys. I mean, I know I don't want to be political too much, and I know I'm way lefty here and all that, but that was just not a great moment. Let's see. So Trump says the cure has been tough so far, but as David Parkman says, barely anything has happened yet, and half of the states aren't doing a thing. So it's been tough on the economy. Certainly, it's been tough on the stock market. So there we go. Let's see. Well, at least you guys can enjoy it. If you can enjoy that Trump thing, that's fine, man. I don't care. Joyce Alain says, U.S. attorney here says, Trump cares more about the market than about your mom. So that's pretty true. He didn't really have a human take to this. He really wants to reopen the markets so that he can get things going. In a response to a question about whether a single public health expert said it's okay to reopen the economy, Trump says the doctors, if it was up to the doctors, they'd say shut down the entire world. So he's creating an enemy here.
One, you said it's likely going to be weeks, not months, before you suggest easing these guidelines that you put out. Have any of the doctors on your team told you that's the right path to pursue?
We spoke to them today, and I was telling them that we have two things to look for. Don't forget the doctors. If it were up to the doctors, they may say, let's keep it shut down. Let's shut down the entire world, because, again, you're up to almost 150 countries. So let's shut down the entire world. And when we shut it down, that would be wonderful. And let's keep it shut for a couple of years. You know, we can't do that. And you can't do that with a country, especially the number one economy anywhere in the world, by far. Number one economy in the world. You can't do that.
By far. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Dan from Grand Rapids, Michigan. How are you, Thomas?
Hey, Dan. How's it going? What's on your mind today about Bitcoin and all the politics and everything else?
All the nuttiness. Yeah, well, you know, I've been watching everybody talk about how terrible it is to bail out rich people and things like that. And what is it? Trump cares nothing for our older people, and the economy should be shut down for months if that's necessary. And I guess one of the things that frustrates me, that feels like it's happening on both sides, is like there's no nuanced approach to the thing, right? Because I listened to it, and I am not a supporter of Trump, but when I was listening to what he was saying, and not even what he was saying, but the message that he was trying to get across, is that he was essentially saying, look, the impact to the economy and the genuine cost of lives that could happen from a Great Depression style economic downturn is going to be bigger than the COVID-19 problem. Now, I don't know if that's true. I don't have the expertise to know if that's the case. I'm not an economist. I'm not a viral expert. But it seems to me that, well, that case should not be dismissed just out of hand and say, oh, the Orange Man bad, all ideas coming from him are terrible, and we're just going to pile on and hate on him. Because I looked it up. There have been almost 50,000 suicides this year alone. And I wonder how many of those are people that got triggered by losing their job. And if we see a 10 to, God forbid, 20% unemployment rate, I can guarantee you that our suicide rate is going to be higher than it has been in 10 or 20 years. So I think there's something real behind what he's saying, and I don't think it's necessarily an all or nothing. I mean, the other thing that he was trying to get across, and I could hear the questions that they were trying to back him into a corner, but the reality is that the United States is geographically very, very large. So you don't necessarily need to have, let's shut down the entire country. You can essentially go state by state and say, hey, if we're over the curve, just like, if you look at New York, in maybe a week, New York is probably going to be over the curve. And it would be silly to say, well, let's keep New York shut down because we're not over the curve yet in Montana. Just because the geographical separation of our states. I mean, if you look at a place like Italy, Italy's big is 3 of the U.S. states. So I don't know. I'm frustrated by people not taking a more nuanced approach to this whole thing.
Yeah, I'm just not sure that the virus is going to care. I really think like the reopening, it's one of those things where I agree with you that it's difficult to be home. It's difficult to lose your job. We are going to see industries wrecked like this. We've already seen cruises pretty much go down, airlines go down, hotels, restaurants, movie theaters, anything you have to go outside to do is in the dumps and probably going to stay in the dumps. And I agree, it's economically bad and all those things, but reopening things, it just seems like it's going to spread infection faster. And if we spread infection faster, people are going to have to stay home. And if people don't have sick leave, they're going to have to go to work. And if they go to work, they're going to spread the infection. And based on what the guy said earlier, the infection spreads not at a 1.0, more like at a 3.0, which seems like not a big difference to us because we're not used to exponential numbers. But if we think of, 1, 1, 1, that's 3. Or if we think of 3, 3, 3, that's 9. 9's a lot worse than 3. I mean, you can see where it's just a very small example. But so I just worry about that. I worry about no other country has reopened before stopping the problem. I think to me, and again, I'm not a fan of the president and all that, but it just seems more like an attention span issue and a stock market focus issue where one of the hardest things I saw recently was this guy, Bill Ackman, came out with a big article, wrote it to the president, was on CNBC. He's a big finance guy. And what he said is the 30-day break, that we need to take a spring break. And I believe he was even saying turn off the markets, which I know is a sacrilege and all these things and would cause Bitcoin and other things to just go wacky because just like turning off the gambling in Las Vegas, these guys don't know what to bet on. They're actually betting on stocks. They're betting, Netflix will go up this much today, and you could just bet on it like a horse. So people they got to get action, and they got to have that thing. But this 30-day shutdown seems like the thing that would give you the break and that would give you the comeback and it would satisfy things. Whereas I feel that the president just wants to restart willy-nilly with no science advisors. The fact that he didn't have the doctor on there, which was a big deal just to everybody because they like the doctor, also became a bigger problem when he started promoting his own medical ideas without the doctor. I
think what Trump needs standing behind him as well is not just a doctor, but also an economist. Because if we take the doctor at face value and just say, well, listen to the doctors because they know best, their expertise is in doctor stuff. And the doctor is trying to cure the problem. I mean, if a doctor told me at some point in my life, let's say it's not related to coronavirus, let's say I have a compromised immune system, and he said to me, well, you have to stay home for, let's call it a year, right? Or you have a 1% chance of getting sick and dying.
Well, and people do, right? I mean, there's people with like brittle bones where they say you can't go outside or you'll hurt yourself. And there's people with like bubble boy syndrome and he can't go outside or he'll get diseases, and people with weak immune systems. I mean, there's a lot of times where we have to listen to doctors and you don't want to. I mean, I don't really eat spicy food anymore. It's not really my choice.
But I guess, I guess what I'm saying
I could go on eating it and it would destroy me, and these bubble boys could go outside and they'd get destroyed. I mean, in each of these cases, the medical realities don't go away. So I agree that economic realities are bad, but the medical realities are inflexible, right? I mean, the people are gonna be physically sick, and they're either gonna be at work spreading it because they have to, because the money, or they're gonna be at home not spreading it. So it just seems, long term.
I think we should all ask ourselves, what's the number? What's the number that's worth the risk? So if we say, hey, if we open the country back up in, call it 2 weeks, there's still a chance that we could have, I don't know, let's call it 10,000 deaths in the country due to this, right? But if we closed everything up for a month, we'll only have 2,000 deaths. What? 2,000 deaths? Well, maybe we should close down for 60 days, and then it's only 10 deaths. Well, 10 deaths is still 10 dead people, and a doctor is going to say, hey, I'm telling you what to do if you don't want dead people. And so I just don't think, I mean, if I were in the president's position right now, I would have a panel of experts, not just medical experts, but a panel of experts, all giving me advice so that I could make an educated decision. Now, I'm not saying Trump is doing this at all, but I'm saying that you can't just say this one expert or this one category of expert should be listened to and ignore everything else. Because I think that what people are not understanding is that, like a good example is you look at all the people that have been laid off by the cruise lines and all the people that have been laid off in general already. And we're only like a week into the shutdown. So I truly think that the economic impact, this coronavirus thing, I'm guessing is going to go away in maybe, let's call it 6 months. The economic impact is going to last years to come. And so again, it's that balancing act. And you can say, hey, I disagree with your economic argument, and I don't think that the economy will do the economic shutdown will do as much harm to our society as the coronavirus will.
Well, I think,
okay.
I agree with your economic argument. I mean, I think this is a good discussion, so let's keep having it because we're being civil and we're talking about both sides here. I think that I agree with you. The economy is going to get wrecked. I agree with you. This is the biggest wrecking. This is our Great Depression. This is, the financial crisis was nothing. The stock market crash of 87 was nothing. We're going all the way back. This is the big one, right? Industry shut down. I have a story. I don't know if I'll get to it, but there's this, they make boba tea in San Francisco. These guys expanded to 17 franchise locations. They were killing it. Great businessmen. They laid off 400 people yesterday, right? The business is over. All these pizza shops, all these restaurants, all the cruise lines, airplanes, all this stuff. I mean, it's pretty much over, right? But can we save that by turning back on the economy? I don't even think we can, because I think the virus would overwhelm us as well, and we'd have to actually shut down for cause. We're at the point where all the essential people are getting sick and we can't even run essential services, and that we're really rolling back. And I think that you'd see more of a necessity of National Guard coming in and running things, which no one really wants, but we're holding out as an option. So I think it would be an overrunning. I think you would come up against nature like a wave, and you'd wave your economic flags, and you'd want it. And plus, how are you going to convince Wall Street? The Wall Street people are not stupid. I know it's fun to get on TV and have Trump say these things and be ridiculous and try to fool the people, but the Wall Street people know there's a wave out there, right? So they're going to watch you reopen the economy, and they're going to bet against you the whole time with leverage, right? And the whole time they're going to be saying, when does the wave hit? And if Trump's right and this is no big deal and it's the flu and it seems very scientifically impossible, maybe you get through without the wave, you screw over all those traders who are looking for you to fail, and you win, right? It seems like a very unlikely win. It seems like you're going up against not just nature and the virus, but also the traders who know that it needs to fail, that these dumps need to get out. They're like an emotional reaction. Like the market needs to get it out. Like the way that Bitcoin was still open so people could bet on this stimulus coming through, that was the market expressing itself positively, that they think the stimulus is going to get supported and it's going to be good. So in the same way, though, I really think if you reopen, the nature will take care of you, and that we'll find out real quick. I think that meanwhile, closing it's scary, it's totalitarian, it's anti-market, it's all those things, like shutting it down, taking a break. But it's like pulling off a Band-Aid. It's the cure that we need. It's it's going to hurt at first, and it's going to take some time, but at the other end, the economy would come out better. We're all going to be way more serious about infectious disease and gloves and ventilators and all kinds of other things. Hopefully, we're going to have lots of changes in our government and our protections and our preparedness. And I think that we can prevent the next one. I think we can prevent the next one from wrecking the stock market. But I don't think we can prevent this one from wrecking the stock market. I think it's already happened. And I think that if we do reopen, the cost in human lives that will be then, I can say that sure, Trump could have acted earlier, and that's a big debate we can have. But if he pulls the lever here and reopens the markets against medical advice worldwide, it's all on him, right? So, we're saying now like, oh, it's bad, but I'm not calling him the gravedigger. When we get into this, if he does it, which, he's poised to do it, it's going to be all on him. And emotionally, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 100,000. I mean, it's, you don't want to go World War II and bring the Holocaust, but it's, if you could have stopped a large destruction of human life, would you have stopped it? And if you caused a large destruction of human life, for money, for impatience as well, there's also kind of like, there's two things. The stock market keeps going down, and the president is just, I believe, an impatient person, just his nature. He's not going to wait. He's a impulsive person. So I think those two things have led him to this decision.
So I guess,
and that we're at the ultimate crisis point, and we're going to test it. I mean, if he wants to do it, certainly I can't stop him. No one can stop him. And we're going to see. So I don't know. I talked for a while, Dan. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. I guess my perspective would be, if the medical experts came out and said, okay, we have now flattened the curve successfully, and there's a greatly reduced risk of overwhelming our medical care system. Lots more people are going to die from this, and we're going to have some bad times, and we might have pockets of cities that potentially get overwhelmed, but now we have enough logistics that we can move the things that we need to the places that we need them. Do we then say, okay, let's reopen?
Well, but that would be waiting for the science. I'm pretty sure what Trump's saying here is just that I just think that they're looking at the economic, so-called economic damage by the overreaction, and they're saying that this is not worth it. And I think if we wait a week or two, we'll start having the deaths that they think are going to justify this for them. I think this is just we tried the cure. It was a 2-week cure. We've been through about 6 days, and I'm pretty sure he just can't take it. And he's not even stuck at home in a little apartment like a lot of people
right.
are. I mean, he's not really suffering. I mean, the White House is pretty nice. It's pretty good size. He can walk around. He has a lot of options. So I don't really, I don't know that he's
I think we all need to ask ourselves, what is that line? What's the line between and it's, they move opposite, right? So the less damage to the economy, the more damage due to the coronavirus, and vice versa. And so everybody, it's not like that line doesn't exist. It's not like even a month from now we're going to say, well, the impact of opening now has zero cost as far as the coronavirus is concerned. There's always going to be a cost to reopening the economy, and that's true in general. That's true of any infectious disease. We're probably going to see a lowering of regular influenza.
Yeah, but again,
right?
it's the do you listen to your doctor? Your doctor says, hey, take this medicine for 2 weeks, call me back. You take it for 6 days, and you say you chuck it out the window. I mean, it's just different things. I mean,
right,
these are just doctor's orders were 2 weeks and maybe a month, and then we would look at it. And instead of waiting 2 weeks to a month, we're going to be like, let's do it now. Like,
what if taking that medicine caused a side effect that didn't allow you to work and you live paycheck to paycheck? The doctor is not considering the impact of the drug on your life. The doctor is only considering the impact of the drug on your illness. And I've always thought of doctors and other people like that as they are trusted advisors. You don't blindly do whatever your doctor tells you, or at least I wouldn't think people should. And if a side effect from that drug is going to get you evicted, then you might make the decision, look, I'm not going to take this drug with a 1% chance of dying, because I'm going to be out on the street in 2 weeks if I take it. So the doctor doesn't give a damn whether or not you can pay your rent. The doctor is just saying, look, you came to me to tell you how to get over this illness, and I'm telling you that taking this drug will get you over the illness. Now, any other concerns, that's none of my business. Like, I'm just telling you what my expertise is. So I think that to just say we just have to blindly follow the expert, the medical experts, is not taking the bigger picture into consideration.
Well, I agree. It's complicated, and there's a lot of ins and outs and what have yous. But I mean, if it comes down to like an auto mechanic and he says you have to change the oil for your car to keep running, we have to change the oil. Like, it's not, not changing the oil for philosophical reasons, or not changing the oil because, we have nowhere to get rid of the oil, or we can't get new oil, or making new oils destroying the environment. I mean, we have to, the auto mechanic says change the oil, the engine will keep running. I think that I think we have to listen to the experts. I mean, I don't think we're in a position to not listen to experts here.
Right.
Given
but
that
I think
it's
we need
not
more experts.
I think that the problem is that I agree. You have the 1% death statistic. So we're all thinking that this doesn't kill you, and it doesn't kill enough people, and it only kills old people. And we're not sure on any of those things, right? None of those things are really scientific facts. Those are what we think we know. Those are the early results. The early results in the election are not always the final results of the election. So we think that it's not that bad. As far as virology, we know that going outside with it, like the guy said this morning, risks not spreading it to 12 people, but spreading it to 59,000 people. So as far as like, how does it spread? We know that this thing is one of the best spreaders we've ever seen, right? Mm-hmm. So if we're at least going to just let's pretend we knew nothing else, that we just came into the world completely brand new, and we're like, okay, you got this thing that spreads really good. Do you think there are other good parts about it, or do you think the other parts about it are going to be weak? Because what I've heard described from the doctors that I've read is that things go along fine, and then most of the time, and then there's this point where the disease takes off. And a lot of people describe, how it's someone stamping on their chest and they can't breathe. And this is scary to me. And these are even people that are in the hospital who have the oxygen tubes are still in pain from this stamping on the chest. And then they have to be isolated. They lose their sense of smell and their sense of taste, they're saying, some patients. So that's weird, right? I mean, we have pretty weird reactions. It's not. And then the other thing to think about here, just from a scientific perspective, is that, okay, so what do we know about the flu? Well, we get the flu every year, and it keeps mutating, and we keep getting it. But what does that really mean? Well, that means inside of our bodies, we have a lot of antibodies who are getting really good at fighting the flu. And on the outside, the flu is getting really good at fighting the antibodies. But this is something that's been going on. I don't want to guess how long. I mean, let's say 50, let's say 200. We've had the flu, the common flu, 500 years, right? Let's say since the Black Death, we've had a common flu, a cold. It doesn't kill you, right? I mean, it gets you a little sick, and we fight with it, right? That's the time it took us to naturally, through herd immunity, through everybody not staying home, everybody doing whatever they want, the economy continuing, the entire world interconnected. Guy comes in from China, guy goes to Italy, everybody all over the world. That's how we got our flu or our cold immunity, right? This COVID-19 thing, it's brand new. This is the new fashion model of viruses. This is the greatest, latest laptop. It's sweet in all the locations, and we've got no defense. So we don't have 10 years defense, 50 years defense, 500 years defense. We have no defense at all. So we don't know what it's going to do. I don't think the doctors know. I think that's why they can't say to you like a lawyer, like, you have to stay home. Like the contract says stay home. They're mixing this up like any other. Of course, we're right into it with a sci-fi movie, with the asteroids coming towards us, or the aliens, or the virus, or whatever. All of these, they are trying to understand it. And what they do know is that this thing is brand new and unpredictable. So I really, as a nature fan, I've seen nature, kill things and make things go extinct and cause earthquakes and all kinds of other things, and water and icefaljoule, volcanoes, all kinds of things that nature can do. I respect nature. I think we should lay off on this thing. If I look at the difficulties in creating an empire of boba tea and 17 shops and a bunch of restaurants and movies and even amazing shows like Cirque du Soleil in Las Vegas, which are all pretty much closed permanently now. I think we can recreate those on the other side. Whereas if I look at this virus and I look at, well, what if we really give it a shot? What if we really give it a chance? Like, let's get out there and let's get infected with this thing. Let's jump in the water. I think it can do it. I think this virus can kill 100,000, 500,000 people in the U.S., in the world's richest country, with this amazing for-profit medical system that we've been touting for so long. I think this thing can do it. I think if Trump wants to fight the virus this way, again, I got no power to stop him, and there's a media reaction and all that kind of thing. But no, I would bet on the virus, 100%.
But again, like I say, okay, here's the question to ask yourself. If you were the president and the medical people came to you and said, so it's call it 2 weeks from now, and they say, hey, I think we're past the curve at this point, and there will still be deaths resulting from this coronavirus. So it's up to you whether you want to reopen the economy or not. And they're not going to be able to put a number on that. They're going to go, well, maybe it's smaller than it was because we've all stayed at home for 2 weeks. But there's still going to be deaths resulting from it. And you then have to make a decision about, do you want to reopen the economy, and how many deaths from this thing that people are anticipating. Let's say that number's not 100,000. Let's say it's 50,000. Do you then say, okay, I'm going to reopen the economy? So all I'm saying is that there is a line to be drawn somewhere that is not zero. So whether that be 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, whatever that line is, there's going to be a point where the economic impact to genuinely the health and welfare of this country is going to be larger than the impact of what the coronavirus is. Now, we can say, hey, Trump is going to pull the trigger too early on that, but there's going to be some point where we genuinely have to get back to business activity, because we can't close the country down for 6 months. We just can't. And so we've got to decide, well, if it's not going to be 6 months, is it 3? Is it 2? And part of the job of leadership is to kind of let people know, hey, someday, this is going to be okay, and we're all going to get back to doing whatever it is we were doing. When that date is, I don't know. And I think Trump is overly optimistic, but it's also the message that everybody wants to hear. So it's sort of like he's trying not to panic people. And I don't know if that message is getting across, and maybe people should be a little panicked. But again, if you consider, okay, what would happen if Trump came out and said, we're shutting this country down for 30 days and we're going to lock it down just like Italy is locked down. And for 30 days, there's going to be no economic activity, and we're going to be at a 40 to 50% unemployment rate by the end of that 30 days. And then, we'll just have to deal with that mess when we get to it. I wouldn't want to hear that message either.
I think at the end of that 30-day shutdown, the economy would come roaring back. I would really think that the 30-day, we would close out the virus. We'd find out where the hotspots are. We'd get the testing. Like, things would be different if we had the testing. If we had a ridiculous amount of tests, we could have done what you're saying about isolating it in certain states and saying, okay, New York, you guys aren't working, but Wyoming, you guys are fine. Right now, we are blind.
We don't know.
We've stabbed our eyes. We are, what's he called? The blind Oedipus. I mean, we have outed our own eyes. We fucked our mother, and then we blinded ourselves. So it's not a great moment for us, right? Sure, we're out there, we're still alive, but we're blind. No, we don't have the testing. I don't think we have the ability. And I also don't think, I agree with your example that yes, someday we're going to have to reopen the economy, and there's going to be a chart that they're going to show me where they're going to say, you know, X number of desks, X number of economy, and they're going to meet in the middle, right? These two charts, there'll be some point where we can say, okay, this is the acceptable level. And yes, the COVID virus is going to mutate. There's going to be a round 2 on this. There's going to be maybe a round 3. The vaccine might not even cure you for life. We don't know anything about the vaccine because it doesn't exist yet. So we can't really even speculate. But so there's going to be different waves. There's going to be, COVID-19B and 19C and all these different variations of this thing. And that's going to happen, and that's going to roll through our economy. And hopefully at that point, we'll be ready with the gloves and the masks and the ventilators and the testing and the fever centers and the drive-through stations and so forth. And we can just pull a switch and have a bunch of existing employees going to work and have task force, and the bell rings and the fire engine and everyone jumps out. We're ready. And then we can start containing it. And once we start seeing these viruses as something much bigger than just a virus, but something that could destroy the economy, once we've had time in between viruses, where we can write papers and have studies and have symposiums and debates and discussions and all these different things. I mean, I hope we're going to do that, in 6 months from now, a year from now, or whatever. But right now, yeah, I'd have to look at those two charts, see where they intersected. But the problem in the current world, in this crazy broken off stub of time that we're in, is that Trump's not even waiting the 2 weeks.
Right.
I don't believe, like, when he's saying this go back to work thing, this could be Monday. I mean, this could be Friday. I mean, if the economy keeps going down, this could be Tuesday. I mean, there's no kind of, he's not looking at the two charts. He's not saying, like, if the infection rate went to this, I'm going to reopen the economy. He's saying the economy is going to this, therefore I'm going to reopen the economy, which seems like a good idea, but actually is going to cause more problems. Like, his outcomes, you have to begin with the end in mind. His outcomes are actually going to be worse than if he, closed the economy and waited this out. Like, doing nothing is very hard to do, and staying home, staying in place, not doing this. But that's how you solve this problem. Like, this is one of those, we're trapped in tar. It's a very difficult problem, and it's counterintuitive. It's like, I don't know. From what I see from him on TV, he's an active person. He wants to solve things with plans and progress and things. And this doing nothing, this sitting around, it doesn't feel active to him, I imagine.
Yep.
And, starting the economy, that's very active. Like, the stock market, is kind of his thing. He's into it, and he wants it to go up, and he wants to be in charge of it going up. So he wants to announce these big plans. And it's just too early. And it could cause more problems, and that's just my belief. But, yeah.
So let me take a pivot to Bitcoin here, because my other thing that I wanted to talk about was the Bitcoin price and what's going on with the money printing in Bitcoin. And one of the things I see that I think is really interesting is that it seems like when the stock market goes up, there's a certain percentage of speculators that move into speculative assets, and Bitcoin for a lot of people is still Bitcoin for speculators is a speculative asset. So the price will go up and the price will go down. And I think that the people that are in it for the long haul, and they understand 21 million Bitcoins, and they understand the whole purpose that Bitcoin was born from to begin with.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
There you go. Perfect. That more and more people will begin to understand that narrative. And the underlying group of people that understand that narrative is going to grow, regardless of the day-to-day machinations of Bitcoin. So what I started to get kind of disheartened when I saw the price drop to such a degree, and thinking about, miner profitability and the halving and things like that. But the thing that people should really understand is that there is a lot like with gold, there's a foundation layer of people that understand the importance of a limited asset. And that is going to grow from what's happening now. And in fact, it's really weird. I was chatting with my mother-in-law, and she said, well, yeah, they're talking about injecting, $2 billion into the economy, but it's just going to make everything more expensive. And I thought, whoa, like the everyday person is now talking about inflation and starting to understand how inflation is going to actually impact their lives. And that really surprised me. And I think that more and more people are going to start to catch on to that narrative, and the price will go up because that foundation of people that understand the true value of Bitcoin and the Bitcoin network, beyond just the speculators going, I'm going to buy it low and sell it high. There'll be more and more people that accumulate for the long term because they understand the value proposition. So I'm looking forward to that. I think we started to see some decoupling in the last couple of weeks. I think that we've had a nice pop on the stock market today, but that's I think we're in for a lot more downside on the stock market, and I think that more and more Bitcoin will start to decouple from these, in my opinion, practically worthless assets. So I think there's good news on the horizon for Bitcoin.
What's been so interesting about Bitcoin during this time is that I think we're the true believers in Bitcoin, like you're saying, the people that are holding it long, who don't like hyperinflation, who just want to have something that they really own, that really understand the aspects of the thing, that we're like in a little boat, and we're getting tossed about by the waves of all these much larger forces. So we waited for a long time to get the financial people into this, the big banks and the big capital people. And I think in a way they might have come in. A lot of them probably bought 18,000. They bought the tops of this thing. They bought other bad points. And recently, I think a lot of them washed out. This big sell down to 3,000. That was a lot of the institutional money just leaving and just we're done with this. It's crazy wackadoo. Now I think these people that bought in, anybody that bought the 3,000, like you're saying, these are speculators. It goes to 6. A lot of them got a dump because they just doubled up. If we want to take it out a step and say maybe they got 4K, that means they have to dump at 8K. So we have a lot of people in it now who are ready to dump at the minute it comes up, whereas those people that you're talking about, those, I think Trace would say a hodler of last resort, if he ever spoke again. But no, those people are going to stick in it for the long haul. They're going to hold on to what they have, keep working their jobs, keep, maybe keep the rent down, keep the expenses down, and just hold on. So it's interesting to see. It's interesting to see how the virus affects things. Obviously, everyone mentally wanted Bitcoin price to stay up during this whole thing and just kind of, mock everyone. But it was a total market crash. It wasn't a crash caused by hyperinflation. Like Bitcoin's a hedge against hyperinflation. It's sound money compared to the US dollar. It's not a hedge against a complete market crash because of a crazy virus. And I mean, if we didn't know that, we definitely learned that this time. So next time, realize, be ahead. So
people have to realize that Bitcoin is still a risk on asset. It's not a risk on asset from the stance of it's risky because we don't know what some random Fed is. It's not a fundamentally risky asset. It's a risky asset in that to a lot of people, the technology has not proved itself. We've got centralization in China, and that's scary for a lot of people. And these people at hedge funds, they're looking to buy something that is proven to withstand a downturn in the general market. And so even though it may be decoupled from fiat, it is not decoupled from being a risky asset. The good part is that because software continues to improve, and I think that Bitcoin is anti-fragile, then it's simply a matter that over time, more and more faith and trust are going to be put onto the Bitcoin network, and therefore people will trust it more and more. And if you look at, for example, the difference between the gold spot price and the gold physical price, and this is because people are realizing that when you get paper gold, it is a promissory note from a company. Therefore, you have risk. And so people are including that risk as far as the divergence between the physical asset and the paper asset. And it's something that Bitcoin, it's easy to do, right? It's easy to say, well, I'm going to take my Bitcoin off the network and I'm going to have possession of the physical asset as opposed to a promissory note that somebody's going to give that to me. And it's so easy to do. If you've got your paper asset in gold and you say, hey, send me that gold that I have in the vault somewhere. Well, you're trusting that company that is holding that gold is around to actually perform that function. So I think it's still, Bitcoin is still a risk off asset. And it's for different reasons than, say, equity is a risk off asset. But it's still a risk off asset. Although I think as we progress in time, it will become less and less and less risky to people, and they will at some point switch over and see that it is a risk on asset. And one of the things that I think is the coolest thing about all of this is that through all of this and through the next 6 months or whatever the world goes through, you're going to get a block every 10 minutes. And in fact, this trial by fire may help people to understand that fact. And they go, well, shit, I didn't really need to cash out my Bitcoin, because the things that I felt were risky about Bitcoin are actually the things that should comfort me. And getting a block every 10 minutes through this, boy, this is about the worst I've ever seen. And therefore, I can project into the future that if something terrible happens to the entire planet, I'm still getting a block every 10 minutes. So I don't know. I think that people are gonna start rethinking whether or not Bitcoin is an on risk or off risk asset.
Definitely agree with you there. And it's also to watch the gold market. It's harder and harder to get actual gold bars. More and more you can only get the paper gold, and that the price is even separated, that you would have to pay a premium to get actual gold. And of course you could pay less to have the ticket. I'd hate to see that develop in Bitcoin. I think a lot of people, Coinbase, other people like that, want to develop these paper Bitcoins, these things that you can hold but not own. And I don't think anyone listening to this show would really fall for it. Everyone here wants their own keys, but I'll bet a lot of new people will.
Well, and I mean, if you think about it, a lot of people already are, right? If you have Bitcoin on an exchange, you're holding a paper asset. You're holding a promissory note that those people will give it to you when you want to transfer that to your wallet. So it's not like we don't already have it. And in fact, if you take a look at the price difference between what is it, the website where you can meet people and physically exchange Bitcoin.
It used to be local Bitcoins, but now I don't even know anymore.
Yeah. So if you look at the difference between the local Bitcoin price and the exchange price, well, that's the difference. So I think we already have it. I think it's pretty inevitable. And the only thing that we can hope for is that you don't get, what do you call it? A fractional reserve. But again, we've already got it. It's not like Bitfinex or whoever, put your exchange here, has got 100% reserve. I can almost guarantee it.
We'll have to see.
Well, hey, thanks for taking my call, and thanks for doing these call-in shows. I love these call-in shows. So,
well, thanks so much for the call, Dan, and I really appreciated going back and forth with you on Trump. It's good to try to discuss this, and I agree. You definitely have a point. At some point, we're going to have to end this quarantine. We'll have to go out into the world. There will be additional deaths. We just have to decide where that point is, and I think we're just way too early. So,
all right, thanks a lot.
Thanks so much. And
stay safe.
Yeah, definitely give us a call anytime. And we had another person on caller ID, so if you want to call, you can go ahead and give us a call now at 1-518-600-1949 or on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. Apologies, we only have just the one phone line, so whoever gets there first gets it, and then give them a couple minutes to be on the phone, and then hopefully we can get to your call later. So that'd be cool. But otherwise, we're hanging out. We've got lots of news to go through. There's been some interesting conversations going on in the chat, so we've been keeping up with that. Hopefully, you're watching the chat right here on the screen. Like Norm says in the chat, it's the 001 prefix if you're calling outside of the United States. So very cool. Martin had an interesting story. Somebody got shot at the deli. That sounds like a bad deal. Everybody wants meat, but nobody wants to get shot for the meat. That'd be bad. Let's see. We did the Bitcoin news. I think we were working through the Trump news. I'll try to do less of it. I retweeted quite an awful lot. So we're trying to do the infections. Would be better if we had the testing. Michael Mifal, former ambassador, said that Fauci said the opposite last Friday of what Trump was saying now. It did kind of seem like we were on more of a let's take a few weeks off, and Trump thinks more let's take a few days off. So we just kind of changed. Daniel Ulfelder says Trump is now mocking doctors. And here's Andreas Antonopoulos, Mr. Bitcoin himself, saying they're delusional if they think this will be over in 2 weeks. With no testing and late to the shutdown, in 2 weeks, the United States will be dealing with several hundred deaths a day. All the differences from Italy are skewed negative. We are going to get it worse than Italy, not better. And I agree with Andreas here. He's right on there. More from the coronavirus response. Trump, who has been calling it the Chinese virus, is now shocked that people are using negative language and being mean to Asian Americans. He actually calls it, he calls it that, you should, it's just amazing. I mean, he's the one that's causing it, and he's the one that's upset about it. So, yes, he's the cause and the cure. Don't call it that. Call it the coronavirus like everyone else, or COVID-19. Trump implies we can't continue with extreme social distancing because the Trump economy is too good, and we can't endanger that. They say Fauci may resign if Trump pulls back on social distancing, and that Fauci is trying to do his best from the inside, but if Trump won't listen, he'll likely resign. Malcolm Nance, formerly with the CIA, holy fuck, hashtag, we are in danger, all capital letters. Trump press conference emphasizes that we are 8 days into a 15-day isolation period where he is proposing to send the country back to work. He's removed Dr. Fauci from the briefing. They think we're done with the crisis except with hotspots. And it reminds me of when you're a child and you just want to go back to school. And you're like, oh, I feel better. I got to get back to school. I've got important things I'm missing. I'm missing sports ball and other things. You have to say to the child, no, stay home, get rid of the cold completely, and then you'll feel better. It's not, you can't just go back early. Then you're going to get sick again. You're going to redevelop symptoms. Plus, you're going to get the rest of the class sick. You just can't do it. Shout out to Jennifer in the chat. She was checking out what looks like probably a really depressing video on the death rates, and then she was going to go watch a comedy. So I might do that in the opposite order. Just go watch the comedy. You just need to avoid this for a little while. Nate Silver, famously a predictor of elections for the New York Times, says, "We're facing a crisis where it's super important to think 2 to 3 months ahead. And we seem to have a lot of leaders who are thinking 2 to 3 days ahead, if that." And it really is that kind of cosmic question of, are they playing three-dimensional chess? Are they ahead of it? Are they figured everything out? Or are they playing checkers and just randomly moving the pieces on the board? There's a pretty big difference there. The Federal Reserve.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
There's an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. The Bank of England has unlimited quantities of money, and the European Central Bank, there are no limits.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
That's the exact reason that Bitcoin was created. So we're going to get to see what happens. We're going to get to see if Bitcoin versus the big printing machine. AP reporter Jonathan Lemire just had a chilling report describing Trump crashing meetings in the White House, taking them off track because no one is allowed to challenge him or prevent facts that are contrary to his preconceived instincts and positions. That sounds pretty bad, like having Tommy Boy in the White House and he just barges into your meeting and throws it off course and wrecks your work for a day. But he's going around doing that to lots of meetings. I really think he's bored. He needs something to do. Robert Reich talking about the Senate bill, saying that we need universal unemployment insurance, checks sent to everyone as early as next week, Medicaid expansion, money sent to hospitals to buy masks, ICUs, and ventilators. What we don't need is a $500 billion slush fund for corporations with no strings attached. So I agree with that. Cryptocurrency value rises $14 billion in 24 hours as Bitcoin rallies 10%. I like to see that. We'd like to see some more of that. The virus can be stopped, but only with harsh steps, experts say. The New York Times. If it were possible to wave a magic wand and make all Americans freeze in place 6 feet apart for 14 days, epidemiologists say the coronavirus would come to a halt in the U.S. There is no magic wand. We must take these harsh steps instead, experts say. So it really is up to you if you believe in science, if you believe in experts, or if you think we should just go and give it a shot because a real estate television reality show mogul thinks it's a good idea. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Governor Texas Dan Patrick suggested Monday night that he would rather die from the rapid spread of the novel coronavirus than see instability in the American economic system. A true patriot. I think we have a clip of Texas governor coming up. But meanwhile, let's see. A little bit more water before we do this next one. A couple days ago, I talked to you about Trump during the press conferences and that he was giving false hope with these false cures and that he was presenting a panacea. And he was doing what he's always done as a con man, trying to present a rosy image that this real estate deal is going to get better. The Taj Mahal casino is going to reopen. This is a great time for you. So he presented all these false cures, and now an Arizona man is dead after ingesting chloroquine in an attempt to prevent coronavirus. Of course, this man chose not to get the medical chloroquine, which is being held in high regard at the hospitals and hoarded as everyone wants it now. He took something from his fish tank. So, Arizona man, probably a Trump fan, took chlorozine from his fish tank, and now he's dead. So that's why you don't spread false information about false cures. People will take it even if it's not the same thing. Clearly, fish tank chlorozine is not the same as medical chlorozine, so on and so forth. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. Chloroquine. But yes, Trump talks, makes stuff up. People die. There you go. Strange stuff at the Hobby Lobby, the famously right-wing business about hobbies, said that managers should make every effort to continue working the employees and denied the employees paid sick leave. It was pretty strange stuff. They also said that they would keep their stores open until the National Guard rolled in, because hobbies are essential in America. Very strange things about Hobby Lobby. Last time I heard about this store, they were having some kind of anti-homosexual, anti-gay rules. Just very weird. I wouldn't think that you'd want this in your business. I think you'd want to be more apolitical kind of layout, especially if you're just a place people go to get stuff for their hobbies. I don't even know what's in there. Maybe it's a craft store. I can't figure it out. The scariest thing Anthony Fauci said about Trump. You don't even care. Florida governor catches flack for slow response. Act like you give a damn, the Miami Herald said in a scathing editorial targeting Governor Ron DeSantis. Florida famously kept the beaches open. It's a lot like Jaws around here, and a lot of people don't believe in the shark. We've got to reopen the beaches. We've got a lot of money. People traveled from far. They're here on vacation. Well, they don't want their little kids to get eaten by the shark. They don't want their grandmother to get eaten by the shark, but the governor cares more about the money. Hey, guess what? GM and Ford are not making ventilators yet, despite Trump's assertion. He's got the power. He's got the Defense Authority Act. He could order them to make ventilators at cost, but he's not doing it, and they're not making ventilators. Look to come back on this story in a few weeks when the crisis intensifies, and we're really wishing that we had more ventilators. We've already talked about Fauci not being there. New York Times pictures of the quarantine world. These were pretty good. A guy said they're behind the paywall. Let's see. Mike Gillette says, let's be clear about what we're debating right now. Tax rates for the wealthy are at historic lows. Massive corporations like Amazon pay no taxes. We could ride out the coronavirus pandemic if we raise taxes on the rich. And Republicans are saying it would be better if millions died. So, millions of dead. Let's save the economy. Check out the Best of the British Museum series continuing on at Mad Bitcoins Twitter. A little Asia action here with a Buddha, a Vishnu, an Indian statue, and Buddha's feet. These were especially impressive given the way that the feet are three-dimensional, rising out of the stone. I'm sure this is a very heavy stone, but if it was a smaller, lighter stone, you could actually have a stamp with the Buddha's feet. Notice the wheel of karma on the bottom of the Buddha's feet, the spokes in the wheel representing the many people involved in this system. Very cool stuff on @MadBitcoins Twitter. As I mentioned, the Boba guys, this is one of the most successful businesses in San Francisco. They had to lay off 400 people. They're still paying insurance and leases, and their business is pretty much over in May. These guys exploded on the scene selling boba tea. It's kind of like milk tea with tapioca balls in the bottom. I don't know. I'm not into it, but apparently a lot of people are. And I remember when it opened in San Francisco, there was a line all the way down the street. A ton of people wanted their boba tea, and sadly, the boba guys are going out of business because of the virus. But what's the alternative? Millions dead? We can lose a business for millions dead. As this new column says, coronavirus doesn't give a damn about the economy, President Trump. If you recklessly reopen America anytime soon, you'll expose millions of people to extreme danger and prove you care more about money than lies. Than lives. Tokyo Olympics were pushed back to 2021. Seems like we should really rush ahead and open that economy. And here it is, the Texas governor going on television arguing that elderly people should die for the health of the market. I think even Tucker Carlson was taken aback by this one, famous right-wing commentator. Here's a little bit of the Tucker show.
No one reached out to me and said, as a senior citizen, are you willing to take a chance on your survival in exchange for keeping the America that all America loves for your children and grandchildren? And if that's the exchange, I'm all in. And that doesn't make me noble or brave or anything like that. I just think there are lots of grandparents out there in this country, like me, I have 6 grandchildren, that what we all care about and what we love more than anything are those children. And I want to live smart and see through this. But I don't want the whole country to be sacrificed. And that's what I see. I've talked to hundreds of people, Tucker, and just in the last week, and making calls all the time. And everyone says pretty much the same thing, that we can't lose our whole country. We're having an economic collapse. I'm also a small businessman. I understand it. And I talk with business people all the time, Tucker. And my heart is lifted tonight by what I heard the president say, because we can do more than, one thing at a time. We can do two things. So, my message is that let's get back to work. Let's get back to living. Let's be smart about it. And those of us who are 70 plus, we'll take care of ourselves, but don't sacrifice the country. Don't do that. Don't ruin this great American dream.
You're basically saying that this disease could take your life, but that's not the scariest thing to you. There's something that would be worse than dying.
Yeah. And look, I'm going to.
So there you go. Very interesting interview from Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick from Texas, saying that elderly people should die for the health of the market. And as I said in the chat, do you want grandma to die or keep buying cheap shit from China? And keep buying cheap shit from China won. I can't believe how much it sounds like Jaws. Really, everyone, if you watched Idiocracy yesterday, today is a great day to go back and watch Jaws. The Spielberg classic. Remember, the shark didn't work, so they were waiting the entire time. They had to cut a lot of scenes, so the shark doesn't even show up till later in the movie. This makes the movie even more exciting and even more threatening because you're just imagining the shark. We know what our shark looks like, but they're just imagining the shark. And this whole time they're just like, turn it back on, reopen the beaches. Let's get out there in the beaches. Let's get out there and have some fun and save this economy. And to have him actually say that, to just actually say, go out and say, well, there are worse things than death. I'm sure that's very comforting to his constituents, that, having the economy go down temporarily would be worse than death. And I mean, he wasn't meaning torture when he's saying worse than death and so on and so forth. I mean, it's really just an incredible statement. And people always say things like, we're getting left and right and everybody's leaving in the chat and they're all upset. But, you always say like the right wing only cares about money, or they only care about people's lives. They don't care about lives, or they don't care. They care about you before you're born, but not after you're born. But to see this and to see him really just say,
collapse. I'm also a small businessman. I understand it. And I talk with business people all the time, Tucker. And my heart is lifted tonight by what I heard the president say, because we can do more than, one thing at a time.
We've got to reopen the beaches.
So, my message is
there's no killer shark out there.
Let's get back to work.
Let's get back to
living.
work.
Let's be smart
reopen
about
the
it.
beaches.
And those of us who are 70 plus, we'll take care of ourselves, but don't sacrifice the country. Don't do that. Don't ruin this great American dream.
So you're basically saying that this disease could take your life, but that's not the scariest thing to you. There's something that would be worse than dying.
Yeah. And look, I'm going to.
It's just amazing. Just an amazing clip. So yeah, I'll check that out. Every life matters, and this is basically the argument that the mortality rate is too low. So we should just go ahead and let everyone die,
Dr.
reopen the
Hotez
beaches.
said that the best estimate right now of the mortality rate here in the United States is 0.7 or 0.8%, as in less than 1%. Now, every life matters, and you don't want to minimize any
That's what you always say before you're about to say that every life doesn't matter. This is a classic Nazi tactic. We've seen it a lot of times, that we should just sacrifice these people and throw them off the boat. Every life matters, but
the United States is 0.7 or 0.8%,
except these lives,
as in less
they don't
than
matter
1%.
today.
Now, every life matters, and you don't want to minimize any of them. But when the mortality rate is that low, what is the balance? What would be your advice to the president if, say, he's...
And again, we don't know the mortality rate. That's the great thing about this. We didn't test it. We don't know who died from it in the U.S. We don't know the China numbers. Everyone on the China numbers, it's all my conspiracy theory guys, where are you at? Everyone thinks the China numbers are lower, right? That's the conspiracy, is that they've been covering up lower numbers, not that they've been covering up higher numbers. And then the number in Italy's keep going worse and worse and worse every day, more and more deaths. That must be fake. Like clearly 1%. It's clearly less than we thought, so we should get these markets reopened. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing stuff. As Chris Hayes here at MSNBC writes, the president touting hydroxychloroquine has predictably triggered hoarding of the drug to the point that one hospital he knows attempting to administer it as part of a trial is having a hard time getting its hands on the drug. So talking about the miracle cure during the press conference has led to a situation where people are dying from drinking fish food stuff, and the miracle cure can't even be tested. So did we benefit by having that random guy come into our meeting and talk about the miracle cure? Well, let's draw it down. If the miracle cure is real, we just lost because we can't test it and it's being hoarded. If the miracle cure is not real, people just died and we just lost because we can't test it and it's being hoarded. So we didn't benefit at all, except for having some good feeling. I hope you guys had some good feeling. If we had some good feeling, that's all we benefited. And we lost the chance to test this, whether it's real or not. So it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad stuff. Not good. Matt O'Brien writes, this is one of the most terrifying paragraphs I've ever read. Trump's view that he can ignore Dr. Fauci's opinion may be influenced by advice he's getting from Jared Kushner, whose outside-the-box efforts have often rankled those in charge of managing the crisis. According to two sources, Kushner has told Trump about experimental treatments he's heard about from executives in Silicon Valley. Jared is bringing conspiracy theories to Trump about potential treatments. So we can just track the information now. We can track it back. We all know people in Silicon Valley who have claimed to cure things. We don't all repeat it, right? We don't all going around, oh, they've cured cancer in Silicon Valley until they do it, right? But you start out with good old Jared, who's trying to be helpful, right? He's heard some new information from his buddy from Silicon Valley. It's sweet insider information, and sure, it's not tested or proven, but he hands it up the chain to his father-in-law, wants to impress him, and now his father-in-law believes there's cures, goes out and talks about it. Now we can't even get the drugs to test them if they are a cure. Now we have random people taking the drug from their fish tank, getting sick and dying. We're better off not talking about random miracle cures from the podium until they're proven and tested. That's the difference between science and politicians. So we should be better off with science. Also, Caroline Orr says that there may be a smear campaign targeting Dr. Fauci, so that they're going to be pushing back because they need to reopen the economy sooner, so they must remove this pesky doctor. Ben Ark, our own BTC socialist, is printing and 3D printing his own face mask. Says it's a very viable 3D printed face mask. So you can check that out. Ben's got a YouTube video where you can learn how to print your own 3D face mask at home. It's a great time to, I don't know, not everybody has a 3D printer, but if you got one, a great time to dust it out and print some things out. Maybe if you have a lot of this material, you could even print some extra face masks and donate them to your neighbors or a hospital or something like that. So, little Casablanca lines here. Opinion article from the Washington Post. Trump is playing Russian roulette with American lives. Russian roulette, the game where you point a loaded pistol at your head. So that'll be fun to see. Governors have issued orders to protect their own people. Measured Trump seems willing to undermine in some weird attempt to avoid blame for the economic crash over which he is now presiding. It's not about your lives. It's about the economy. It's about the legacy. And in a certain point, it's got to be about re-election. November 2020. Andreas Antonopoulos writes, I'm troubled by my reaction to the news that members of the U.S. government who denied COVID have tested positive. If anyone deserved a swift karmic response, they did. Schadenfreude is bad for my soul, but I can't help it. Ugh, I'm going to be reborn as a congressional intern. And he's, of course, referring here to that Ted Cruz is in self-isolation. Rand Paul reportedly has the coronavirus, and that Rand Paul probably got it from CPAC, the conservative conference where it spread through people shaking hands, likely, and that he may have infected other members of the Senate or the House, and that all the people who are denying it are the same ones who are spreading it. So it is a very bad look. It's not something good. Let's keep going. I think we're running out of news. There's a lot of news. I was pretty psyched to see this from Will Walkie, my friend Will from used to be in Wisconsin. Don't know where he's at these days, but good old Will used to be on the show, Will Pengman. I kind of expected him to be on the other side of this. Will's a very libertarian, independent-minded person, and he says the masks don't work and the it's just the flu people are just like any unhinged conspiracy theorist, except their proclamations literally and directly endangered hundreds of thousands. So they're way worse than Zero Hedge or Alex Jones or Louis Farrakhan. I agree with Will. The masks don't work, people. It's just the flu people. They're costing human lives. It's a horrible thing to say. You just don't want to be involved in that. Sure, staying home's not great. It's not fun. Maybe you have a bad situation. Maybe you're eating canned food already. Maybe you have to stay home with people you don't like, or you're in a small room, or you don't have a good internet connection. There's all kinds of downsides to staying home, but it's much better to stay home than to get sick. Check it out. One of my hobbies, after going to the museums a bunch of times, is 16th century grenade launchers. This is from the German Historical Museum in Berlin, and it's a response to a similar piece from the British Museum, part of my Best of the British Museum series on @MadBitcoins. This is a combined wheel lock and match block hand mortar. It's a hand mortar for the man who has everything. Incredible detail on both of these pieces. Notice the inlaid designs on the cannon as well as on the stock. Just a marvel and a masterwork of craftsmanship and functionality, presumably, although I haven't seen one fired yet. But I do like 16th century grenade launchers. Fun stuff. Paul Krugman, we make a lot of fun of him for saying the internet's like a fax machine and for not being a fan of Bitcoin, even though he's an economist. But he comes in with a pretty good joke right here. He's a pretty good line, a pretty good mock. He's saying, being a libertarian means never having to say you're sorry. And he quotes a tweet where one of the drivers of the reopen the economy push is law professor Richard Epstein. In a piece he wrote last week, which has circulated in the Trump administration, he predicted that only 500 Americans would die from COVID-19. As we know, the United States passed 500 yesterday. So never have to say you're sorry. Funny image from Adolfo Linares, famous Panama Papers lawyer who I got to meet at HCPP. He has this little image with the Rolling Stones, and they're all wearing masks except for Keith Richards. And Adolfo says, "Long live Keith Richards." And I added in the Wayne's World quote, "As you know, Keith cannot be killed with conventional weapons. He doesn't have to wear a mask. Keith Richards is stronger than the virus." And we're a one-man band here, but we had a lot of help from my friends. Good to hang out with Mir today. Also good to talk to a couple of phone callers today. Thanks to Dan in Grand Rapids for joining us. Pretty good time today on the show. Got a little political, but I don't think too much. What can you do when they're trying to reopen the economy before we're ready, when they're ignoring experts and they really only care about the money? So I don't know. You can make up your own mind. You can watch today's press conference. Maybe Dr. Fauci will be back and we'll be going back towards science, but I wouldn't count on it. I think we're going the other direction. So we try to be non-political as long as we can. We even renamed the name of the show to try to convince you that this would not be like the other shows, or maybe you wouldn't like it. But thanks so much to everybody for giving 38 thumbs up. If you're watching this at home, it's always a good time to give us thumbs up and a share. Subscribe down below. Hit the bell for notifications. Anyone could call in. Anyone could call at any time. But we'll keep talking to you in the chat. Keep the show going. We're about the 2-hour mark. probably going to head towards the end of the show. So thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for giving us thumbs up and share. We'll be back again tomorrow about 9 a.m. Pacific time until around 11 a.m. Pacific time. We're trying to do these shows every day, weekends too. So just to keep talking about this, talking about the Bitcoin, talking about the news, and, talking about the coronavirus because it's in the news. So that's about it for me. Until next time, bye-bye.